It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Our top story. Touchdown. Donald Trump arrives in Scotland ahead of a 4-day visit and praises the Prime Minister he'll meet.
I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard, but he's a good man. He got a trade deal done.
The US President, though, criticises his French counterpart and immigration into Europe. We're outside his Turnberry golf course tonight. Also on the programme, the pressure on the Prime Minister to recognise a Palestinian state as more than a third of MPs sign an open letter. The resident doctors out on strike, criticised by the Health Secretary for what he called their reckless action. They are all victims. The mother of a teenage boy knifed to death on her son and the boys who killed him.
I hope we can put in an incredible performance on the pitch again on Sunday, and I hope that will bring us the win.
One game from glory. We speak to England's coach ahead of the European Championships final. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. Donald Trump has flown into the UK tonight for 4 days of golf, business and diplomacy. He'll be staying at 2 of his courses in Scotland and will meet the Prime Minister during his trip. On landing, he said he likes Sir Keir Starmer and they've done a trade deal. But he also criticised levels of migration into Europe and attacked Hamas over the situation in Gaza. Well, that situation may dominate the agenda during his stay after shocking images of the extent of the malnutrition in the Palestinian territory moved governments, though not America's, to call for action. We'll have more on that a little later, but first, from Prestwick Airport, our US correspondent James Matthews reports.
For the president with the Scottish roots, this was a flight home of sorts. A break from awkward questions in Washington of sorts. Because the Jeffrey Epstein affair had travelled with him.
I'm focused on making deals. I'm not focused on conspiracy theories that you are. I mean, I watch you people. It's so sad. You ought to talk about the success of our country instead of this nonsense you talk about.
Nonsense, he said, of Epstein as he took questions. And Donald Trump was asked about the British Prime Minister. He was asked too about immigration in Europe.
I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard, but he's a good man. He got a trade deal done. On immigration, you better get your act together, or you're not going to have Europe anymore. Immigration is killing Europe. And the other thing, stop the windmills, killing the beauty of your country.
Scotland has an uneasy relationship with Donald Trump. Consider the meter and greeter on the Prestwick tarmac. A Scottish secretary who'd once branded his guest a racist, misogynist and xenophobe.
It's really important for that special relationship, which dates back many, many years, for us to be nurturing that, because it's in our national interest to do so. We're the closest of allies on defence, on security, on trade and culture and history, and we've got to respect that, and we've got to make sure that we're nurturing that and taking that into the future.
This private visit is a rare public spectacle on Scotland's Ayrshire coast. Presidential vehicles were flown in specially for the occasion. If Trump's convoy moved easily towards Turnberry Golf Course, it was the only thing. This is a stretch of land on lockdown. The president will spend the weekend at his Turnberry Golf Course, now fenced off and patrolled by an estimated 5,000 officers. Planned anti-Trump protests have triggered the UK's biggest police operation since the death of the Queen. In Scotland, it wasn't always hostile for Donald Trump. Rewind to 2006, when he flew in to buy golf courses.
James Matthews from Sky News. Welcome to St Andrews. Very nice to meet you.
He was the star of TV's The Apprentice, You're Fired and all that. A more innocent time.
As I understand it, you're saying build a wind farm and you're fired. I won't build my golf course.
You're fired.
But relations soon soured with neighbours.
It's a slum. I mean, it's horrible the way he maintains it.
He's a New York clown.
Okay, let's go over to the 14th hole.
He clashed with government, local and national, over wind farms off the coast.
Okay, got it?
And as his career path took him to the presidency, his politics didn't sit with the Scottish public at large. This will be a working holiday for Donald Trump. He'll meet the UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Scotland's First Minister John Swinney. They'll talk trade as the UK seeks to refine its agreement with the United States and reduce tariffs. Trade will be on the table too, with a late addition to the itinerary. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, will meet Donald Trump on Sunday. On the shores of South Ayrshire, it is the business of government, far from the business back home. For now. James Matthews, Sky News, in South Ayrshire.
Well, James is at Prestwick Airport for us tonight, and our Scotland correspondent, Conor Gillis, is at the President's Turnberry Golf Course. James, to you first of all. He's only been here just over an hour, but already it's clear this may be a private trip, but Donald Trump is going to be very busy.
Yeah, hi, Gillian. Very much a working holiday. He's going to meet Sir Keir Starmer. The British Prime Minister will have been encouraged by the warm words for him as Donald Trump came off Air Force One. Starmer will want to exploit that relationship, that building relationship, on a number of matters, principally on trade, of course, the agreement's in place, but the UK is still seeking to refine it and to revise it downwards, certainly on tariffs, when it comes to tariffs on steel. So discussions on that, also discussions on Russia and Ukraine. Starmer and also those in European capitals, particularly Kyiv, are encouraged by the change of tone and tune of Donald Trump in recent weeks with regard to Ukraine, leaning rather more towards Kyiv than he has been over recent months. So talks on that, talks also on Gaza, of course. And the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she's going to be in town, a late addition to Donald Trump's things to do list. And they'll meet amidst much expectation, actually, that he is close to a deal with Europe. He rates the chances of that at 50-50, he said. But, you know, underlying all of this, of course, is the wish to play golf, to come to his mother's homeland, to open a golf course in Aberdeenshire after his mother, who grew up, born and raised on the Isle of Lewis. So he does want a bit of peace. What he will get, of course, is widespread protest, policed by an army of officers who have been drafted in to cope with it. And at all times, Team Trump will be keeping an eye on the news back home, of course, for developments on the Jeffrey Epstein affair.
And to that point of protest, Conor, a huge security operation in place, with some determined to make clear they don't welcome the president's visit.
Yeah, we got the Donald Trump signature wave as he swept past us in the Beast on his arrival here at the Turnberry course that he owns. The soundtrack of the bagpipes was the Scottish arrival for the US President himself. And moments before, on the tarmac at Prestwick Airport, where James is, he couldn't resist to boast yet again that this course is, in his words, the best in the world. Turning to that security operation, it is the biggest Scotland has seen in very many years. Up to 5,000 officers deployed across the country. The main focal point primarily, initially, here on the Ayrshire coast. And there has been a huge perimeter fence thrown up around the scene here, where we're expecting Donald Trump to tee off potentially tomorrow. And if we pan up, the snipers are on standby as well. This has become something of a circus for this small Ayrshire town. This has been weeks, if not months, in the planning. It was first mooted last summer. Turning to the protests as well, so far tonight, the supporters have outstripped the protesters. Will that still be the same story tomorrow? There certainly are organised events across Scotland's cities. The question is, will the man on the course here, the US President himself, be blocking out all that noise?
OK, Conor and James, thank you both. Well, before he left for Britain, Donald Trump dismissed the decision of his French counterpart to recognise Palestine as a state, saying President Macron's announcement didn't carry weight. Tonight, Sir Keir Starmer is under pressure to follow France after more than a third of MPs signed an open letter calling for Britain to do the same. The Prime Minister says he's unequivocal that a Palestinian state has to be recognised, but as part of a wider plan for the region. It follows the increasing evidence of the impact of malnutrition and warnings of mass starvation inside Gaza. Our political correspondent Rob Powell reports.
Desperation, starvation in Gaza. Now aid from other countries will be allowed in after Israel said airdrops could take place. Images like these raising the pressure on nations, including the UK. Sir Keir Starmer issuing a fresh statement today, saying the appalling scenes in Gaza are unrelenting. The continued captivity of hostages, the starvation and denial of humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people, the increasing violence from extremist settler groups, and Israel's disproportionate military escalation in Gaza are all indefensible.
We've been very outspoken about what Israel is doing in Gaza at the moment. They need to pull back, they need to allow aid in, and they've got to provide the space for a political set of discussions that can lead to a ceasefire, and then the ultimate process that will lead to Palestinian statehood. We want Palestinian statehood. We desire it.
Gaza also at the centre of a joint statement from France, Germany and the UK calling for an immediate lifting of aid restrictions. It comes after Emmanuel Macron set a date for the recognition of a Palestinian state. Donald Trump dismissing that move as he left for his visit to Scotland.
Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy, I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
The worsening situation here leading to friction between world leaders and a balancing act for the UK abroad and at home.
The government has gradually become more critical towards Israel, language hardened, arms licences suspended and sanctions on some politicians announced. But for many Labour MPs, it's all just been too slow. They worry about losing votes on the issue, but given the horrendous scenes coming from Gaza, they also worry about the UK ending up on the wrong side of history.
And other backbenchers agree. This letter, sent to the Prime Minister and signed by 221 MPs from 9 parties, calls for the UK to immediately recognise a Palestinian state. More than a third of the Commons, including many from Labour, putting their name to further action.
Principally, it is symbolic. It is about the UK saying, enough is enough. We believe that the Palestinian people deserve and have the right to statehood, and we support that. But then on top of that, there are additional legal protections that it does provide, and also in terms of a recognition that they are now a state, or they would be a state that is occupied, which cannot continue.
Israel says recognising a Palestinian state after the October the 7th attacks would reward terror. But this is now a humanitarian crisis impossible to ignore, though finding consensus and a way forward still beyond the grasp of world leaders. Rob Powell, Sky News in Westminster.
Well, our correspondent Lisa Holland is in Jerusalem and spoke to us earlier about the decision by Israel to allow the delivery of aid from the air.
It's not the first time that Israel has sanctioned foreign aid airdrops over Gaza, but of course it is the first time that there will be these parachutes of aid being dropped into Gaza against the backdrop of such a dire humanitarian situation. Now, what does this whole thing look like? We expect that it will start at least in the next couple of days. Potentially, we've been speaking to the Jordanian authorities. It looks like the Jordanians will be involved. Potentially the UAE as well. We know that there is a huge amount of aid stockpiled in countries neighbouring Israel and Gaza. In fact, the UN says there is enough food to feed all of Gaza's population of just over 2 million people for 3 months. Enough aid stockpiled in Egypt and Jordan. Of course, the million-dollar question is it going to be enough? It's simply not possible to say at the moment. We don't know how many aid drops there will be. And crucially, I think as well, we don't know exactly where the aid drops will be. Remember that Israel stands accused of a policy of driving the population south away from northern Gaza. Currently, the 3 of the 4 aid distribution sites run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation are in the south of the country. So we don't know where that aid will be. It might seem like a quick fix solution, but it is incredibly dangerous for those on the ground. We've seen in the past that people have been killed because inevitably when they see those aid flights coming, they will clamour to where that aid is dropped. It's dangerous. It will attract fighting, jostling amongst people trying to get at those supplies. And of course, particularly right now when the humanitarian situation is so bad with malnutrition widespread now amongst Gazan people.
The 5-day strike by resident doctors is underway tonight. So far, its impact on the NHS and patients isn't clear. But the head of urgent and emergency care for NHS England said earlier there was a small but significant group of patients whose procedures were not going ahead as a result of the strike. The Health Secretary said the BMA's action was reckless. Our health correspondent Ashish Joshi reports.
What do we want? Where do we want it? Now! This is the scene our government was desperate to avoid. Doctors back on the picket line. Strikes over the past 2 years have led to pay increases, but now resident doctors, previously known as junior doctors, want more money. They say, in real terms, their wages are still down 20% since 2008.
The government could stop this at any point by offering us a credible deal and continuing us forward on the path to full pay restoration. No doctor wants to go out on strike. I didn't train to go out on strike, but we've been left with no choice.
Good morning. How are you doing? West Streeting held last-minute talks with the BMA, hoping to avoid disruption to patients and staff.
We can see there's a small but still significant group of patients that we would consider in urgent need of surgery that look like they've not got a procedure going ahead.
Today, he addressed NHS leaders across the country to try and minimise the impact.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to say at the start of what's going to be a really challenging 5 days, a massive thank you to all of you.
Resident doctor strikes in the last 2 years led to hundreds of thousands of cancelled appointments.
However much the BMA try and sugarcoat it, what they are fundamentally doing today is forgetting the 3 words that should be at the forefront of every doctor's minds every day, which is do no harm.
These strikes are a threat to the government's #1 NHS priority, improving hospital waiting times. It's pledged that by the end of this Parliament, fewer than 8% of patients will wait longer than 18 weeks for treatment. It's currently almost 5 times that number. The government also says no more than 5% of people should wait longer than 4 hours in A&E. As it stands, nearly 25% of people are waiting longer than that. And people who waited over a year for elective treatment make almost a third more A&E visits in the 3 months after their care, while those seen in 18 weeks saw a big reduction. The NHS is bracing itself for this latest industrial action to be a marathon and not a sprint.
Because it is possible. I would hope not. I would hope after this we'll be able to get people in a room and resolve the issue. But if we are in this with a 6-month mandate, we could be doing this once a month for the next 6 months. And we've got to organise ourselves accordingly.
NHS leaders have been told to take a different approach to the strikes this time. West Streeting wants these strikes to cause as little disruption as possible. So that's why he's instructed local NHS trust leaders to see as many patients as they can over the next 5 days. That didn't happen over the last 2 years of strike action, but the BMA says this could put patient safety at risk. The two sides are clearly miles apart, so this could become the new norm, unless a breakthrough can be found. Ashish Joshi, Sky News in Westminster.
The mother of a teenage boy stabbed to death with machetes on a London bus said today the crime had 3 victims after his 2 killers had been sentenced to life. Kellyanne Bokassa was murdered in January. The teenagers who killed him had themselves suffered broken lives, said the judge in his sentencing. Rachel Venables reports.
With machetes hidden in their waistbands, Kellyanne's killers boarded the bus. The court was shown in graphic detail what happened next. As smiling, they stabbed Kellyanne Bokassa over and over. The 14-year-old boy cried out for his mum before he died.
I want Kellyanne to be remembered as another child who lost his life through youth violence and who the system has again failed.
Kellyanne had been on his way to an appointment at the Youth Justice Centre in Woolwich and was carrying a knife. His mum's spoken about how he'd been groomed by gangs from a young age, despite her pleas for help. Today we heard the 2 boys who killed him had also been criminally exploited by gangs.
Unfortunately, adults who were involved professionally in his life didn't see the sign when he needed the help, and they should have done something. And I believe that he was failed, just like those 2 children. I think they were also failed. 3 of them, they're all victims to me.
In sentencing the defendants to life with a minimum term of more than 15 years, the judge said this was another senseless loss of a young life to the horrors of knife crime.
In my judgment, when one looks at the CCTV, this was a murder with significant planning and clear premeditation. Second, the victim was particularly vulnerable because of his age, 14 at the time of his death. Third, while the use of weapons to commit the killing is accounted for on the starting point, the weapons used in this case were particularly dangerous, being large machetes.
This is a story about 3 young boys, all groomed or criminally exploited by gangs. And in court today, Kellyanne's mother spoke about her hope that her son's killers get the help they need before they're ever released back into society.
The harsh reality in London is that violence affects some children more than others, particularly young black men and boys and those experiencing worsening social and economic inequality.
Kellyanne had been looking forward to turning 15. Instead, his mum spent his birthday at his graveside. Yet another child lost to youth violence in this city. Rachel Venables, Sky News at the Old Bailey.
The actor Michael Ward has been charged with rape and sexual assault. The 27-year-old who starred in Channel 4's Top Boy allegedly committed the offences against a woman in January 2023. Ward says he denies the charges entirely. He's due in court at the end of August. A coroner has concluded that Lancashire teenager Jay Slater died by accident with no one else involved last summer in Tenerife. An inquest in Preston heard how he was attempting a 14-hour walk in rocky wilderness back to his holiday apartment when he fell down a ravine. A friend said the teenager had been drinking and using drugs, including cocaine, the night before at a music festival.
On a clear day, how it will astound you that the glow.
The British jazz singer Dame Cleo Lane has died, aged 97. She performed with some of the greats, including Frank Sinatra and Ray Charles. Dame Cleo was also well known for a long-standing collaboration with her late husband, the composer John Dankworth. Thailand and Cambodia have exchanged artillery fire for a second day in widening fighting along their border. At least 20 people have been killed and 130,000 displaced. Each country has blamed the other for starting the conflict, their worst in 13 years. Our Asia correspondent Cordelia Lynch reports from Thailand's Si Saket province near the border.
The roads are deserted in northeastern Thailand. Only the military on the move. More than 130,000 people have now been evacuated. And this is why. The rumble and rattle of clashes with Cambodia. The thump of artillery strikes.
You can hear there that loud boom. We're here in Sasaket province on the border with Cambodia, and it's been very active. Clearly, both sides showing no sign of backing down.
Lives have been uprooted, civilians rushing to safety, and every generation looking and sounding unsettled.
Does this feel more dangerous than what you've experienced before?
This time is more violent. The Cambodian side are using strong weapons. They are dropping rockets into residential areas. It's killing people, including students.
It all happened too fast. I knew there would be fighting, but I didn't know it would be this quick. I couldn't pack my things in time. Everyone here only has the clothes they're wearing. There are a lot of kids and elderly and sick people, and they couldn't bring their medicines.
In Cambodia, a mirror image of disruption. The government there has accused Thailand of using banned cluster munitions, and officials say 7 sites have been hit. Allies on both sides now calling for peace.
The Secretary General urges both sides to exercise maximum restraint and address any issues through dialogue and in a spirit of good neighborliness, with a view to finding a lasting solution to the dispute.
The fighting follows 2 months of tensions over contested territory. But at the heart of the story is a feud between 2 former leaders, Thailand's Thaksin Shinawatra and Cambodia's Hun Sen, strongmen who fell out over a leaked phone call. The test: can the road to diplomacy in this region trump the long shadow of political dynasties? Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, on the Thai-Cambodian border.
England's Lionesses are making their final preparations to defend their European Championship title against Spain on Sunday. Today, their coach, Sarina Wiegman, talked to our sports correspondent, Rob Harris, about the challenge ahead.
Sarina Wiegman stands alone in football management, leading teams to 5 tournament finals. And she's been speaking to Sky News ahead of an unprecedented 3rd final with England, with only Spain standing in the way of their Euros title defence.
I feel grateful, and I'm really excited to play another final with England.
But they've not made it easy for themselves, needing 2 late comebacks. The impact on Wiegman a bit of a worry for the Lionesses.
I mean, I think we've nearly killed her twice this tournament. She said we've definitely aged her.
Ella Toon just said to me that she's apologising for aging you a bit throughout this tournament. Do you ever sort of get angry with the players for making it so dramatic?
No, I'm never angry at the players, because I know they give their best and they do everything to make it work. I'm just really proud of them, how we show up, how we step up when necessary, and I just hope that we do a little bit earlier now.
When you've had these late comebacks, so many people in the nation have been clamouring for substitutions to be made earlier. How do you resist all that pressure and all that intensity and know you're vindicated?
Of course there's pressure. Of course, when you're down, or 2-0 down, or 1-0 down, then there's pressure because you need to score a goal. And then you make your subs, and it's incredible that the subs make a difference. But the team who's on the pitch, of course, adapts to that really good too.
Now, this team is achieving a lot of sporting excellence, but also how important is it that they're using their platform to help girls' rights in football and to campaign against racism?
That's the higher purpose of women's football. So, of course, it's England and we want to win, but there's a bigger picture too. And, of course, we saw that last week, that we said this is enough. We need to, we're just leading that and everyone supporting. We need to send a message out because it's unacceptable and disgusting. And that shows also that the identity of the women's game, that yes, we want to perform and we want to improve and we want to get the results, but that gives us a platform to hopefully make a little change, positive change in society.
The hopes of the nation on your shoulder. A trophy has never been won by England overseas.
England is totally overloaded with the fans, so there's so many here, and I hope we can put an incredible performance on the pitch again on Sunday, and I hope that will bring us the win.
Never before has an England manager won 2 major trophies. In Serena, players and fans trust. Rob Harris, Sky News, Zurich.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by Daily Mirror columnist Susie Boniface and comment editor at the Daily Telegraph, Annabelle Denham. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this from The Times on the continuing impact of the crisis in Gaza. Its headline, PM rejects calls to back Palestinian statehood. Much more on that when we come back. Stay with us.